And this is a presentation around inclusive community physical activity programs for autistic children. Exercise, good. So how can we include people more in these situations? We have Professor Nicole Rinehart, who is a professor in clinical psychology at Deakin University, and Dr. Olivia Millard, who's a dance performer and maker, lecturer in art and performance at Deakin University as well. So very much kind of look forward to hearing from them. And again, please do feel free to ask any questions during the course of the video, and they are standing by. Let us know, make sure you let us know who the question is for. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this webinar. We're really excited to be here. When not everybody is included in our community, it's usually because of the structures and systems in place and not because of the abilities of a young person. This is a key design feature of the AllPlay program, and hence our tagline, making the world fit for all kids. Our second really key design principle is partnership to improve access to the community. So I would like to acknowledge our partners, first and foremost, the children, families, teachers, sports coaches, dance teachers who have been involved in co-designing our work, together with our key industry, philanthropy and government partners and our research partners from around Australia. So what is AllPlay? AllPlay is a platform of evidence-based and strength-based resources to support the 1 in 6 children who will experience a developmental challenge or disability in our community. So how did we build the AllPlay platform? I say that it's research-driven and strengths-based. Right at the start, when we started this program about 6 years ago, what we did is we went to the literature, scientific literature, to gather up all of the evidence and research around the barriers and the facilitators to participation in the community for young people. Where there were gaps in the literature, our research team conducted our own studies and pilot studies, and this very busy slide is a snapshot of all of our recent papers that we've published. So what did we find? Initially, we found that a key barrier to participation in community sports and dance classes is child anxiety, and also anxiety in parents. A lack of resources that are available, and not just available for young people, but available for the coaches and teachers who are going to receive them and support them when they're engaged in a dance class or sports class. We took all of that research and we built our first program. Our first program is called AllPlay Footy. It started actually in 2013 when my children began playing Auskick for the very first time. And as a clinical psychologist and researcher, I was absolutely struck by the fact that there were no children with autism or other disabilities who were participating in this sport. And yet I could see the incredible benefits for the young people who were. So that started a conversation with the Australian Football League. So that's how AllPlay started. Fast forward, and we now have a platform of resources we've developed with the AFL that tackle some of the barriers, some of the common barriers that we found in the literature and prioritise based on what the community was telling us around sensory, anxiety, knowledge, the particular rules. And we digested the literature into sound bites and accessible videos and different visual forms for the community. To give an example of one of our programs, this is the AllPlay Pre-Learn Footy program. So what parents told us at the start of this journey was that one of the challenges was the idea of just turning up and enrolling in a 6 or 12-week program of Auskick, paying fees, and not being sure whether their child would enjoy it and whether it would be good for them was just too overwhelming, so they didn't even try. And so we worked with the St Kilda Football Club and Geelong Football Club and a community of young people with autism and a community of people with cerebral palsy. And we developed this pre-learn footy program to help unpack some of that anxiety and support young people, and also take away that economic hurdle of parents having to pay up front and not knowing whether their child actually wanted to play the sport. And so the program is pilot's been published. It was essentially where we trained coaches and we set up the structures and systems for children to thrive, and provided coaches with information to support the young people, but it wasn't coming from clinicians or researchers, it was coach to coach. And I'll show you one of the clips that we used.
You might not have ever thought about it, but families of children with disabilities like autism spectrum disorder can sometimes be very anxious about attending a community activity like the NAB AFL Auskick.
Kids with autism might find it harder understanding instructions. They might stand too close, talk too loudly, or say things that don't seem to fit. They might need to be shown things rather than be told what to do.
In our pre-learn programs that we ran, we found that after participating in the programs, the young people, parents had reported a decrease in their sense of anxiety about their son or daughter participating in organised physical activity, and the children showed an increase in child-reported enjoyment, and a proportion of those children went on then to enrol in a full season of footy in their local community, which was a fantastic outcome. And what we did a couple of seasons ago is we took a group of children who had autism who were participating in Auskick, and a group of children who weren't participating in Auskick, football or any other organised physical activity. And we looked at these children pre and post participating in the program. And what we found was that there was a reduction in children's anxiety after the season. And we also found a reduction in social problems. And what was really interesting, and it's the graph here on the right with the blue line, is the more sessions children participated in, the greater reduction in their social problems. From a clinical perspective, we know that exposure, being able to engage, being able to participate, is a key driving force for improving mental health and developmental and social outcomes. But this kind of research really puts a focus on that finding and can help parents make decisions such as, well, you know, if I have this amount of resource and time, what kind of support or intervention or community-based activity should I pursue? A young man who I was seeing in my clinic at the Melbourne Children's Clinic saw one of these Auskick AllPlay posters up on the wall one year, and said to me, you know, when I was younger, why didn't you just, you know, send me off to play football? Why did I have to do all of that therapy? I could have got a lot of improvements just by having fun and playing. We looked further to look at motor skill development in these children. And again, so here we had, as well as parent report, child report, we also had direct neuropsychological measures and neurological measures. And so here's an example of a young boy who is balancing. And so we looked at balance before and after the season, and we found that indeed young people improved in their balance skills, improved in their aiming and catching, and in their total motor proficiency for the kids who participated versus the kids who didn't. And you know, that's really quite remarkable from our perspective as a clinician, that a young person can be having fun, participating in a community-based activity that is much lower cost than a clinical intervention and derive some real benefits. Of course, this is a pilot study, so we need to scale it and we need to understand it in a lot of different children, not just a small group of children. But I think these findings are really positive. This is probably a good segue now to hand to my colleague, Dr. Olivia Millard. As the research was emerging from the AllPlay programs, the community then came to us and said, you know, not all boys and girls want to play sports, and particularly football. A lot of boys and girls want to dance. What about an AllPlay Dance program? And so based on that feedback from the community, Olivia came on board and we developed AllPlay Dance. So over to you, Olivia.
Thanks, Nicole. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the AllPlay Dance program, and in particular the one that we ran for children with autism in 2019. And I guess it has a particular approach to it in that it's designed to be inclusive and similar to the kind of program that you would find in the community, rather than it being dance therapy. So the program was based on an approach of, I guess, what we're calling diffusion of authorship or co-design of the program itself. And what I mean by that is the participants themselves, the children who came to do the program, were really big deciders in the kinds of dancing they were doing. So the program consisted of a series of dance classes, and they worked with, as I said, set material, dance improvisation, task for movement generation, and they created a performance. They did it over 8 weeks, so 8 dance sessions, and then they had a rehearsal and then a performance for their family and friends. And the program, I think, was unique in that it was designed together. So myself and other dance experts, but also working collaboratively with the disability experts from the Deakin Child Study Centre. So the psychologists who are the experts in this area, and that was really particular in the way we thought about how we would make this program work. We also had the involvement of older and more experienced dancers who we called buddies. So because of this approach of eschewing an intervention in favour of working with children in this collaborative way, and because of our aim to enable them to have agency in their own dancing, there are potential implications for social and developmental goals. So I have a quote here from the parent of one of the participants. So a young boy who had undertaken kind of sports activities beforehand and not really found them to his liking. So his mother wrote, "I have noticed Oliver's mood improved and he was much more active. He is usually quite sedentary. He kept dancing around the house as soon as he would hear music. His confidence skyrocketed. He let all his peers proudly know that he was taking contemporary dance lessons. I've never seen him willingly get up early on a Sunday. It was fabulous to see Oliver accepted and belong to a group. Isn't that what every human being at their core wants? Acceptance." And so for me, this demonstrates not only that Oliver was having I guess a successful participation in the program, but that participation really had implications much more broadly in his life. And that's, I guess, what we're aiming to do, not just to, I guess, teach children to dance, but to kind of enable the much broader, I guess, social and developmental outcomes across their lives. As well, of course, as working carefully to enable the participation of the children, this program included the gathering of evidence of its benefits. So as Nicole discussed earlier, we really are not just making a program, but measuring the benefits so that we can then help people to understand and how these programs might be beneficial, but also how or whether they could be recommended by clinicians and experts. So that program was a randomized control trial, and it particularly, because it was a pilot, examined the feasibility of the project. So most participants very much enjoyed it. They really enjoyed the participation with their buddies. And so all of them said they had fun, they felt happy, they felt good about themselves when participating in the program. They said they enjoyed the dance sessions and performances and indicated that they would like to do more. And the parent feedback was quite similar, very positive. Most parents reporting that the program was helpful or beneficial to their child, and that they would like to participate again. And we had lots of because it was such a short program that we had lots of follow-up inquiry about, are we going to run any more, which we certainly are planning to do. All of the buddies also enjoyed the program, and I think one of the important parts about that for us is the buddies as young dancers and fairly experienced dancers are the future dance teachers in the community. So not only, I guess, are we enabling the children with autism to participate in the program, but we're also training the next generation of teachers. So the methods of inclusion in dance programs are second nature, I guess, in the way they will undertake their teaching in the future. There were also secondary outcomes, which were the results revealed potential benefits to motor functioning as well as in the footy program.
Okay. Thank you so much. That was a super interesting presentation, and we've had some commentary through the course of the presentation. So you've answered a few of the questions and comments. But we had a question from Penny, which I think was super interesting for both Nicole and Olivia, which was really just about what the impact of COVID-19 has been on your program. Anybody keen on answering that question?
I can answer that. So the impact of COVID on our program has meant that we were unable to deliver some of our new programs this year, our coaches, inclusion modules with the AFL and scaling our AllPlay Dance program. However, the good news is we've used this time to build a new AllPlay hub that is a very accessible resource that takes families on a journey from the time they recognise that the child has a developmental challenge all the way through dance, football, education, and we have a plan to go into life skills and work. So that will be launched towards the end of this year. And so that's where we've been busily putting our energies.
Fantastic, thank you. And I think we'll do our best to share a link to the hub if we can make that available to everybody. That would be super interesting. We had a question from Karen, for Nicole. What have you found to be the key features of an autism-friendly community activity program that really contribute towards making it a success?
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. It got me thinking. It's not just one thing. I think that's the most important take home. What we've tried to achieve with AllPlay is to bring together all of the magic ingredients, what we're calling our magic sauce of AllPlay. So having accessible resources that are evidence-based, that are strengths-based, that is key. And then that are co-designed with the coach or the dance teacher, the child, the parent, and so on. And then the final step is not having that resource as separate. So don't have the research, the evidence-based, the resource as separate to the activity. So what we're doing, for example, going forward is we've spent the first 4 years building the AllPlay football program, and separately, in parallel. And what will happen from next year is that we're then going to embed that into the DNA of the AFL, from the executive of the AFL right through to websites that people go to within the AFL community, not a clinical website or a research website. So where the community is, to give the community and to continue to develop a research feedback. So not one thing, lots of things that need to come together. We have lots of examples in our community of brilliant resources, but they're not always accessible and not always in the right spot.